What's going on, friends? I want to remind you that tonight, Wednesday the 26th, and tomorrow, Thursday the 27th, I'm having a free webinar masterclass all about how you can launch your own hit chart-topping podcast just like this one in just 30 days. Now, if you have a story to tell, if you own a business, if you're a coach, consultant, blogger, YouTuber, you get the drift. You need to be there. Get your wine or your drink of choice. It's going to be fun. You can learn some things. I'm going to give a lot of free gems. There is no commitment for you to show up to this webinar. Register for free. The link is in the description of this episode, or you can go to my website, carlawilmeras.com, and get more information to register. Now let's get started with the show. Welcome to the Shit I'm 30 podcast. This is the weekly show where we discuss and share our unfiltered opinions on topics such as mental health, relationships, sometimes it gets a little kinky, and we talk about sex, parenting, and so much more. With me, your host, Carla Wilmeras. Now, my goal is to get rid of society's expectations about where we should be when we're in our 30s and just free ourselves to live the lives that we've always dreamed of. Now, friends, remember, it is never too late. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 103. It's crazy for me to even say that, but I'm so grateful that I can show up for you guys every single day, every single week. And today I want to shout out Court Deanne. I think that's how you say it. You know, I'm terrible with names, guys. But reading your reviews on Apple Podcasts motivate me to literally turn on this microphone every single week. And I tell you every week because it's real. It really does push me and give me motivation to keep going. But I wanted to read her review that she just left, and it says, favorite podcast. Okay, girl. It says, I started listening to Shit I'm 30 when I first turned 24. I'm still not 100% sure how I found this podcast, but I'm happy that I did. I thought it wasn't for me because I'm not 30, but it's for all women. I've experienced a lot of adversity throughout my lifetime. Carla is the first person I feel like truly understands the struggles of being a loud, outspoken, and opinionated young woman standing up for herself. There's so many valuable life lessons you can learn from her. I highly recommend listening to this raw and authentic podcast. Listen, this review melted me. Like I told you all that I was going through it this weekend. I talked about it on Mindful Monday. If you haven't listened to the episode, it's here on the it's on the podcast, so you can listen to it. But I talked about it during the There Is No Testimony Without a Test because I was stressed. I was just crying and feeling like I wasn't there. And when I read this, I'm like, you know what? She's only 24. I'm 32. Or you said you turned 34, so I'm not sure if you still are, but you're in your 20s. And I have actually so many girls that are in their 20s. And I wish I would have had a me when I was in my young 20s. You know, I wish I would have had someone like me to listen to. I wish I would have been able to look at someone else's path to success and say, you know what? I'm not failing. It's okay. I can be loud. I can be opinionated, and I can learn from my mistakes, which is the most important part of it all. I'm learning from mistakes that I've made before, and it's okay. I don't have to beat myself up about it. So thank you so much for that review. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you go to Apple Podcasts from your computer, your phone, your auntie phone, your uncle phone, your mama phone, whoever it is. Leave a rating, leave a review. It helps me, and at the same time, it motivates me to keep going. Now we're about to get started with this amazing episode, and it's with Ruthie Fonseca. And brace yourselves. This is a full-on warning. The tears are flowing. It is a tearjerker. We are crying, not from the get-go, but it's going to get there. And looking back on the recording, they're happy tears. I want to end this month, which we look at sometimes as the month of love, showcasing what it looks like to see two women loved unconditionally by their fathers. And even though we both no longer have them here with us, I wanted to prove to every woman and every man the importance of a little girl having their dad. That's not taken away from little boys needing their dad, because children, every child needs their father and their mother. But I wanted to highlight in the specific episode today the importance of when you're a little girl and you have your dad, what we turn into, who we become, the impact that love makes in our lives as grown women in our 30s, even long after they've left this earth. So get your tissues ready and enjoy the podcast. Hey y'all, how are you? Happy Wednesday or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever day you're listening to this. I'm going to stop saying Wednesday or Tuesday because I never know what time or what day you're going to listen to this to. So I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for coming back. Today I have with me I decided that I'm going to start calling my dad my ghost co-host.
Oh, that's so cute.
So instead of guest co-host, so I do have a co-host on an everyday basis, and I think it's because I talk about him so much. So this episode will be a lot about, dads and stuff. But I have with me the host. I don't have to say it like my friend. The host of Unexpected Reality Podcast.
Yes, it's real. I have a podcast.
Ruthie Fonseca is with me. I've known Ruthie now for a couple of years, and you're going to hear me actually on her podcast coming up soon that launches. Well, it will have launched by the time I put this out. So it will have already launched. Go and look for Unexpected Reality on everybody listens to podcasts.
Yes.
Rate, review, do all that good stuff for her, and you're going to have a great time listening to that. But now that we're here, before we get started, we'll go ahead and go into the shit you should know. So something that I saw in here, and I was actually talking about this with my live last night, something along these lines. And it was a report. It says, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 19.7 million children, more than 1 in 4 live without a father in the home.
That's so sad.
That's 25%.
That is a lot.
Or more, because it's more than 1 in 4. So every time you see a child, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't have a father.
That's
1, 2,
insane.
3, 4 doesn't have a father. So I don't have a full article on this because I really wanted to talk about it. I want to reference a little bit of Bully and the Beast, which is my boyfriend's podcast. And they had a Valentine's Day episode. And during this Valentine's Day episode, they gave him like therapy, quote unquote, about his son. So he has a 6-year-old son that he doesn't see, and he doesn't see because of his baby mama. The state of New York is very different than Florida. So when him and I'll be completely transparent about this, when him and I started talking, I was like, you're lying. Something's different here. Something's wrong. What is it? What is it? How can we fix this? What can we do? Maybe you're not going hard enough. You haven't tried hard enough. And I want to be the first one to say about this that he has tried. He does try. But aside of this, what I was thinking about, so during this interview or the episode, he's talking to 2 other women, his co-host and my friend Cuddy. So it's 2 women that don't have children. And I didn't expect to hear what I heard from them. And I'm sure that this is just in the middle of them talking. Because when you podcast, you say certain things. But there was something that I want to make very clear. One, when you don't have a child, although you have parents and you know what it is to have a relationship with a parent, it's very different. You don't understand the pain that you feel when you're about to call your child and you can't reach them, when you don't know where they are. And when that happens to me for 5 minutes, I'm losing my shit. Like, I literally have issues with my sister right now because of this. So at one point, there was a narrative of he needed to apologize to the baby mom for whatever reason. He admits he was a dog. He didn't commit. He probably was the worst person in the world to her. But what I want to say, just because of this, 19.7 million children and more than 1 in 4 live without their father. It's a huge deal. And there are parents or fathers like Wax
that want to have a relationship.
Want a relationship. And in my belief, my personal belief, as a woman, I would not befriend or be friends with a woman who does this. I would speak up. I told you he was going to call at some point in time. He felt me talking about him. He felt it. Oh, he felt it. Sweetheart, I'm recording and I was just talking about you. Huh? Okay, thank you for letting me know. I will proceed to talk about you. Bye. I knew it. Oh, I have it on Do Not Disturb. Okay, so what I decided as a woman, like I said, I won't befriend someone, and I will speak up for the child because the child has no voice. At this point, the only person getting hurt is the kid. And if a man is not sexually abusing, physically harming, putting them in harm's way, the child, step away. Let them be with the father. Or I'm sure there's some instances with the mother as well. Probably some fathers out there with full custody. But we usually focus in this culture and our society with the father. So I'm coming from a point that my daughter has a dad, my ex-husband, who is not the most active father. I don't care for his parent, how involved he is or isn't. But when he says, I'm coming.
He's coming.
You could come. If he shows up at my door right now and says, I want to take her, pack your shit. You got to go with your daddy. He's got to be kidding me. Does he want to be a part of it? Like, what is the problem? Do you want to talk? I'm going to put the computer on Do Not Disturb also because now he's tripping. Yeah, so she would have to go with her dad. So this shit you should know is more, I know you don't have any kids, but I'm sure you've experienced some of this.
I kind of fully agree with that. And I know it's hard for me coming from a point that I don't have any kids. And I just feel like sometimes it's not about us.
It's not.
We need to just realize that, yes, he might have hurt you. Yes, he might have cheated. Yes, he might be an asshole.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if he wants to be in your kid's life, like, your kid deserves that. And like you said, unless he's being abusive, unless he's like, I don't know,
putting him in harm's way,
putting him in harm's way or anything like
giving
that.
Giving him drugs.
Exactly. At the end, or doing like drugs around him or putting him in situations. Right. At the end of the day, you just need to be able to just take a step back and be like, it's not about me. It's in the interest of the kid. And
at the end of the day, you had the kid with him. So if he was good enough to nut inside of you, sorry to be so explicit, but you let him jizz all in you. That was your choice. Now that's your baby daddy. You have to deal with it. I have to deal with the fact that mine is just... he's just not the best cookie. You know what I'm saying? He's like the Girl Scout cookie that you don't really want, At this point, he's fuck.
But he's there, and he's always gonna be there.
Always gonna be there, and my daughter needs him, and it sucks. And I'm gonna have this conversation with him at some point during the podcast with someone else. I want you guys to hear the pain. If you haven't heard that podcast episode, it's on Bully and the Beast. It's a Valentine's Day episode. You can hear the pain in him. And for me, it hurts me because I love this man, but I feel for every man that we don't take into consideration their pain, their feelings, So men have feelings. Let's be there. And I've talked about this more than once. And you, even though you don't have kids, you can be the type of woman that says, if there's a woman next to you saying, I want to do this, you can speak up.
100%. And I also feel like sometimes and another thing, because it's not just a matter of letting them see the kid. It's also, don't be talking shit about him to the kid. Because I think that's another thing that I don't have kids, but that I feel like people kind of enter into that pattern that, like, if he hurt you, you need the kid to know, well, your daddy did this and your daddy did that.
But you can even do it as a tia or an auntie or whatever and be like, yo, fuck ass baby daddy, like, whatever.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, you're hurting the kid. So what you need to kind of take into consideration is, who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for me because it hurt me? Or am I doing it because I want to protect my kid?
And you can 1,000% be hurt.
Yes.
You can be hurt. I'm hurt at what my baby daddy's doing because when my daughter hurts, I hurt. Someone asked me in the live, well, what if you have a half-ass baby daddy and he only shows up half of the time and sometimes he doesn't show up? But you know what? Half of the time he shows up, he's going with the dad, and the other half is the time for you to teach your child not everybody's reliable. This is what pain feels like. Not even including myself, because with Ayana, I'm sure I've hurt her. I done whooped her ass. I done told her some things sometimes and I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have said that. We are human. Your father is not the best with time, showing up. When he shows up, he showed up. Go have a relationship.
And also at some point, she'll make her own decision.
Absolutely.
When she's an adult, like we were saying earlier, the kid doesn't have a voice.
Right.
We are the voice. But once they get to she'll make her decision of like, I've had enough about this. I don't want to have this relationship. And that's like on her. But until then, I think it's like the parents, because like we said, it could be the mom, it could be the dad, depending on the situation, for them to at least try for that. Relationship
they definitely should. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about today. So today's episode is going to be the importance of having your father in your life as a woman and in your 30s. And you and I have had very close relationship with our dads, which is why I want to have this with you. Similar yet very different in certain ways. And we're also going to talk about sudden deaths, sudden unexpected deaths, and then expected. I don't know if expected, like,
I think not expected word because
unexpected death. Right?
My dad once,
even though there's two things sure in life: death and taxes.
Yeah, exactly. But I know exactly where you're going to, because my dad he actually asked us this towards the end. He's like, "Would you rather I die like your uncle who just had a heart attack in the middle of the day that nobody expected it? Or would you rather something like this where you know that I have a diagnosis and it's going to happen, but we don't know where it's going to happen? Like, do you prefer the prolonged knowing and planning for it? Or would you rather it happen? Yeah.
I didn't know this. Oh my God. Okay. So then let's give a quick background of how you and I, because you guys can go to unexpected reality. Me cago en la madre. To listen to like the full of how we met. But I met Ruthie back in 2017. You were actually, what episode were you on?
The last flight from
the last flight from Puerto Rico. The first flight out of Puerto Rico. So if you guys look back, I'll tag what episode number it was, but you can go back and listen to Ruthie right here on Shit I'm 30. She actually is here in Orlando because when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, she was on the first flight out of the island. Mm-hmm. She connived and scammed her way into that flight. My dad helped me. Listen, she scammed her ass onto that first JetBlue flight, right? Southwest flight out of Puerto Rico. So if you want to hear her story and how she got onto that flight when the entire island had no power, no food, no water, people was about to die, and she gets on this flight.
Now I feel bad.
So I will put it. You should. No, I'm just kidding. You shouldn't, because then I would have never met you. Yeah. But how she got to Orlando from Puerto Rico. She lived literally across the street basically from me. We grew up in the same place, had no idea. We met on a trip to Siesta Key. But since then, we just stayed in contact. Mm-hmm. Why I clicked with you. Yeah.
Again, I keep saying you were like my long lost neighbor. You know, my neighbor that I never met until now. But it was always meant to be.
When I meet people from Puerto Rico, they're usually like, I'm from here, there. You never really hear someone say Dorado.
I know. Yes.
Ever. And to like have grown up there. Is that the right word? Or grew up there? Whatever. This one of the two.
Math. Doesn't really matter.
Class. Fuck y'all. We grew up there. Like I was born in a hospital somewhere else. The same people. How do we know the same people? You go to the school with my friend and everything, but whatever. It is what it is. We stayed in contact. Then there was a shift, and I think in closeness and in having something together, because I was at my last job when I received a phone call or a text message from you. And it was like, either I need to talk to you or pray for me, something along those lines. And you told me that your dad was sick, but you guys didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm. So before we go into the story of everything about your dad and mine as well, that you guys hear about him all the time, but I'm very, I know that I have a lot of new listeners every episode. So I want to talk about the importance of having a father in your life, and what was your relationship like with your dad?
So I'm just going to warn this beforehand. Like, I am going to be crying a lot, most likely. I cry over everything. And this is obviously, it's a little bit more recent. So bear with me. But
I have tissues somewhere. I can't remember where I put them.
Don't even worry about it.
I just moved them. I don't know where I put them.
Once we're talking about close, I feel like I was as close as you could be. You know, my dad called me his soulmate. Like, it wasn't my mom. It wasn't like, he always said between me and my brother and my sister, my brother was his best friend. My sister was his little girl. I was his soulmate. You know, I was the person that every day on his way to home from work at night, he would call me.
Where do you work? What did you do?
Psychologist. He was a clinical psychologist. And he ran the psychology department at one of the universities back home in Puerto Rico. So he would normally give class. I think he had like a 7 p.m. class or something like that. So he would be driving home around 8:30. So he knew I would be home. And it was almost every day. It was a phone call from the moment he got in his car to the moment he got home. Right. And it was just talking about anything, how my day was, what his day was. I love my gossip. So anything that was happening like at the university, what crazy, obviously he never like broke confidentiality, but if there was like any crazy stories or stuff like that, or if we had to like check in on something that my sister was doing or my brother, like I was like that sounding board for him.
Okay.
So I would like, he
was like el chisme con papi.
El chisme con papi. And it was like, it was that thing, you know, it became to, like I said, he was honestly my best friend. I didn't make any decision without running it by him first. Like, his opinion mattered. Even sometimes I would not take it. In the end, I would always be like, you were right. I should have listened to you. But he was always there from when I was a little girl. You know, he, being a clinical psychologist, when we were younger, he traveled a lot. So he actually worked with NASA for a really long time, and he would train like the astronauts and all that kind of stuff. I don't know doing what, but there was like a program that had to do with psychology, and he ran it. And then he also worked for with us for the Lutheran Church. So he was traveling all the time. But one thing he always made sure was that he always showed up, whether it be I used to be a swimmer. So every weekend, he was there at every swim meet. He was the one who mom would take us. He would pick us up at the end of the night. Like, he was always there. And I'll never forget, I think it was the year, like my 11th, you got your class ring. I think it's in 11th grade, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
I remember seeing it.
Yeah. So
I think you ordered it.
I think we got it. So we had like our ring ceremony, and I'll never forget one of the dads coming up to him and being like, I just need to commend you because I know how hard you work, and you are one of the only fathers that I have not seen.
You graduated from Dorado Academy.
From Dorado Academy. Okay. So, that even other people noticed that he showed up no matter what. And he always had our back. Like, I knew I wanted to study fashion design from a young age. So many parents would be like, absolutely not. You're not doing that. Right. He was like,
you're going to be a doctor.
He was like, where do you want to go? What are we doing? What's student loan? Like, let's figure this out. He was just always on board. Any crazy, stupid idea, looking back, that I'm like, maybe I should not have done that and wasted all that money. He was, you want to do it? We're going to do it.
Try it.
He tried. He always pushed us to try. Because, again...
Was he like that with all of you?
With all of us. He was like that with all of us. I think I learned at a younger age how to work around with him, if that makes any sense. Christina and him would fight all the time. Okay. But I would always tell Christine... Christina's my sister.
She's been also on here. We talked about...
Eating disorders. So, Christina is very much like... She's pushy. She's like... You'll say no, and she'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And then that would just make him upset, and he didn't want to do it. My technique was I would ask once. If he said no, I'd be like, okay, but Dad, no problem. I understand. Give him a day. He's going to come back right around the next day and be like, you know what? That's okay. Like, you can have, like, whatever it is that I needed, like, wanted to go or whatever. And I would tell my sister all the time, girlfriend, listen to me. This is the technique. But she would never listen to me. So I think it was, she was hard-headed. So I think... I knew his moods. I knew when to kind of come around, when not to come around. Right. But also, I think
when to ask,
when not to ask. And also, one of the things, like, and some of my friends would think that it's weird, but they also loved it, was my household and my parents have always been fully open about everything and anything. Like, never have I felt uncomfortable asking them about sex.
Really?
Yes. I've always been comfortable asking him.
Asking him what?
One of my favorite stories. And people are like, you're fucking crazy. So one of my favorite stories, there's two with this one guy that I was dating. And at the beginning, I couldn't figure the guy out. Like, he was being so slow. Like, it was just taking him forever, and he just wasn't making a move. And it was like...
He was so slow, like making a physical move?
Like, not even a kiss. Like, we had not even kissed. This was like in my 20s, like 25 maybe. Right. I was in New York. He was in Puerto Rico, so I didn't see him all the time. So I was home, and I was like, Dad, like, I'm really trying to figure out, like, is he into me? Is he not? Like, he's here every night until 2 in the morning.
Gay?
Is he gay? And Dad, at first, he was like, he's gay. He's gay. And I was like, Dad, no, I really don't think he's gay. And he goes, you're telling me that this guy is in my house until 2 in the morning while I am upstairs, not bothering you, and he hasn't even grabbed a titty? He's gay. I was like, Dad. He's like, you don't know. If I was alone with your mom in her house, I was at least grabbing a titty. So then I'll remember then, like, a few days after, finally the guy made a move, and Dad goes, so? I was like, Dad, he grabbed both titties. And he was like, thank the Lord Jesus, he's not gay. And then, fast forward, like, a few months later, I was back home on vacation, like, visiting from New York, and if anybody knows me, I am not a morning person. Like, I wake up super late. That morning, don't ask me why, I was up at like 7 in the morning.
What morning?
It was one random weekend that I was in Puerto Rico. And one thing that I do, like, if I'm up early, everybody has to be up in the house. Like, I'm a bitch. Like, if I'm awake, everybody
so
needs
much
to be
noise.
awake.
The kitchen cabinet,
yes,
slamming.
Everything.
The blow dryer, all of a sudden I want to dry my hair.
You need to wake up. So what I actually did that morning was I went into their room and jumped in bed with them. And I was like, it's time to wake up. And my dad's like, it is 7 in the morning. What the fuck is wrong with you? Go back to bed. And I was like, he's like, go back to bed. Come back in an hour. You would think I'm like 9. I'm like 26, 27 at this age, at this time, boy. So then I go back to bed. I unpack, which I never unpacked. I unpack, I organize everything. I'm like, okay, it's been an hour. Go back into the room. It's like, Dad, it's been an hour. And he goes, I have a question. Did you have an orgasm yesterday? And I was like, I did. And he goes, that's why you're awake so early. So that was the relationship I had with my dad. Like, we were that close. Like, we were open. Like, he would make us so uncomfortable. Like, talking about, so again, my dad, he was a psychologist. My brother had to take a class with him once. And my brother says this story about how my dad was talking about women's hormones after they have babies and how women have to want to have sex all the time after they want to have babies.
Really?
Yes. So
more than now?
Yeah. So I guess I was like, I don't know if it was while my mom was pregnant or after she was pregnant. He was telling the class about how my mom was like a little rabbit, and then he would tell his friends that he didn't want to come home because all my mom wanted to do was have sex. And my brother was like,
mortified.
"Excuse me, I'm gonna walk out. Once you're done talking about my mother and your sex life, you can let me know, and I'll come back into this class." But that was my dad. Like, he didn't care. He was fully open with it, and I think that's why all of us have felt comfortable, in our sexuality, talking about sex, being open about it. Like, my dad was always like, here's a birth control. Here's, like, if you're going to do it safely.
At what age? Because we are Puerto Rican at the end of the day.
So I think I'm going to say high school for sure was when it was a little bit more comfortable. But
no, birth control in high school?
Birth control, yes. But mine was also for other reasons. I had to get on birth control because I wasn't getting my period, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he was the type of person that it was like, if you're going to do it, I'd rather you're going to be safe than you're not doing it. And my house was the house to be at. And it's so funny because my dad was we never drank. Like, my dad never had alcohol. He worked with one of the biggest companies back home about alcohol and drug prevention. That's what was like his platform was like, no drugs, no alcohol, blah, blah.
So he knew how to talk to you guys.
Of course.
This is his life.
So then I remember in high school, every time that we were going to have like a class party or whatever, everybody wanted to come to my house. I was like, why? You know that we can't drink. Why are we coming to my house? And they're like, because we feel safe. Because we know that your parents are going to... And were we drinking in front of... Absolutely. And I don't think my parents were... I don't think they were naive to think that we weren't. But my friends always respected the fact that once you were inside my house, that wasn't happening. Parked outside in the car. My dad was upstairs. Didn't see anything. That was a whole other story. But they felt comfortable about my parents. And to this day, a lot of my friends will tell me how, like, my dad relationship that not only I had with my dad, but that my father fostered with them made a difference.
I'll definitely say that for sure. More for I had a lot of guy friends, and I was always like, I was a little boy, but my sister's friends. So Lorna, which is actually the one that I spoke about during your episode, the one that passed away, and I told her mom that I wanted to be a teacher just like her. She tells a story about how my dad gave her Dom Perignon for the first time. That was my dad's champagne, and it's expensive as fuck. So my dad didn't stop selling drugs until I think I was born. So he had this kingpin lifestyle, and then of course he turns his money legally, and it's still a lot of money at the time. So my dad, he would just teach him how to give him the fine champagne. He was never a drinker. The good weed or all this stuff. But they knew they would get like the safe stuff with my dad. He would introduce them to all these things. But the reason why I would love for you to tell these stories and watch your face light up and how we talk about our dads, because I think that people are always like, I get messages 24/7. I love the way you talk about your dad, which is now why I'm calling him my ghost co-host. He's always around, and the way that my experiences, the way I grew up, very different from yours, because yours was a clinical psychologist. Mine was a crazy drug dealer turned jeweler, and he was just a streets man. Your dad would be like, here's birth control. My dad was like, don't be a hoe. Yeah. But if you're going to lay on your back, he needs to pay a couple bills. So I think they did it. They loved us in a certain way. And what I want to show in this is that we become women.
Yes.
Little girls become women. Little boys become men. But right now I want to focus on us as girls and as women. We are shaped to be who we are. So you're single and you're out here, looking for
ready to mingle.
Looking for the right one and doing what you're doing. But I don't think because of the relationship that you are with your dad, for me, I'll speak for myself actually, I have never felt the need to buy a man's love. I've never felt the need to beg for a man's love. Yeah, I've done some dumb shit. I got cheated on.
We all have, yeah.
Oh my God, I stayed. I talked about it last episode with Krista. I'm like, I can't believe that I stayed, because I always said I'll never stay. I see my mama getting cheated on, I'm leaving. But I do remember when, the video stopped. I know I wasn't charged all the way. But I do remember that when I did get cheated on by my ex, I probably shouldn't say this on the microphone. It got a little wild in the house, and there was a window broken, and there was some other shit that happened. And the first person I called was my dad. My dad showed up. The cops came. My dad showed up. And I remember I left for a second with my other brother. And when I got back, within an hour, my window was fixed.
Oh, wow.
The window was fixed and it was like...
Never happened.
Like it never happened. He never shamed me. I stayed with the guy and he was just like, is this what you want? All right, get it. But I'm here.
Yeah.
Within seconds, my dad was at my front door and I was like not terrified to tell him. And I feel like if you are a man listening to this or if you're a woman listening to this, tying back to the shit you should know about, you know, us not as women not allowing the fathers to be a part of it. This is the product of a woman who had their dad growing up. Now we can go ahead and I've talked about it with Mandy. Mandy didn't have her dad as active, and other friends that I have like Dexty didn't have her father growing up. So we're so different. We're so different, and it doesn't mean that it's in a negative way, because it's not, but we really are. There's this sense of security. There's this sense of confidence when your father is there, because it's like
you don't necessarily go looking for it somewhere else.
Right. You don't go looking for it. And that's my biggest fear with Ayana, because I see a little girl that's not going to have the chance that I have. And I know that in my new relationship right now, one of the things that I love the most about him is his relationship with her. How every morning he's on that phone and he makes sure he calls before 7:15 before I drop her off to tell her to have a good day at school. So, you know, when he calls out, is she home yet? You know, how was her day at school? Like, that to me is like, whoa, it's insane. Like,
and it's going to make a difference for her also.
So I pray that it does, because she's 14 already. You know, a lot of her life has already been shaped. But these are the really, really like rough years for me. This is now when like sex is being introduced. This is now when her hormones all over the place. I have talked to her about masturbation, and I don't want to have any more in-depth conversation about that. Like, I think it's happening. I don't know, but shit, I'm going to be like, can you put a sock on your door?
So I know
when you're playing with yourself, so I don't go in there. I don't know how to fucking talk to her about this at this point. I have to find a book to read. So if you guys have any like suggestions on books that I should read, please let me know. But I wanted to show what it looks like. Two women sitting across from each other, very different. One who was an extremely family man, by the book, legal, knew exactly how to talk, and mine called me a puta from 9 years old. Tú eres una puta, which means I'm a whore. He called me a whore from the day that I can remember, but I knew what he meant by it. He was like, don't go out there sucking all these random dicks. My dad was very like legitimate. As a grown person, he was like, oh, tú eres una puta, blah, blah, because I was fucking my guy. And I'm like, well, where are these niggas at?
Yeah.
Because if I had 4 dicks, daddy, I'd be happier. You know? And he'd be like, what the fuck? And I'm like, well, you're calling me a hoe anyway. But I knew what he meant by it, and it was with love. But even though mine was crazy and in the streets in the way that he spoke, and yours was how he was, we ended up with this sense of security. And this is what it looks like to have a dad. And then we'll go into like the second part of this, because now not only do we have that in common, that you were your dad's soulmate, I was my dad's twin. So he called you his soulmate, my dad called me his twin, and we looked exactly alike, and everything about me is the same as him, to the point where I talked about in live today. I think I've said this before on the podcast. He paid for my boobs. My boobversary, we didn't get to celebrate it, but it was February 1st of this year. It was 10 years of my breastises. So shout out to my father. He paid for them. He told the doctor he was only going to pay for one titty and see how I acted. And then he would get the second one. And the doctor was like,
doesn't work like that.
Who is this guy? What the fuck? I'm like, Dad, just give me the fucking money. Like, stop it. You're embarrassing me. And he would tell everyone at the pawn shop that I was the most expensive set of rack that he ever paid for. So I made sure I flashed my dad when I first got my boobs done. Like, as soon as I was able to take that bra off,
you're like, look what you paid for.
I'm like, look what you paid for. He's like, the fuck? That's an expensive set of tits. Like, I only paid like $50 for tits, like $5,000. So that's the type of relationship I had with him. So it wasn't very educational in a sense, but it was more like know your worth in his own way.
Yeah.
So another thing that we have in common is that we are now both, we don't have our fathers. Let's drink.
Yeah, it's going to get rough, guys.
So this is also very different. And I wanted to talk about, like I said in the beginning, sudden death versus unexpected, and a death that you know that's coming. Although we all know we're all dying. We just don't know when. I'll tell really quick my story of how I remember, what I remember. And it was Father's Day morning, 2016. He wanted to make a grand entrance, grand exit. So it's Father's Day morning. I sleep on Do Not Disturb with my phone. We just talked about the Do Not Disturb thing. I don't like to be talked to. I have my favorites on here, which I don't think I had it at the time. But my phone was always on silent. And I think part of the reason was because I was probably being sneaky with my phone also. My boyfriend was always here. So do not disturb. I don't hear my phone ringing, of course. And my boyfriend's, at the time, phone rings. And he hands me the phone. He's like, hey, it's your brother. He hands me the phone. I'm in my room. And all I hear, and it still rings. It'll be 4 years this year. And I just remember him saying, I need you to come, Papi passed. And I'm like, I'm half asleep. It's super early. And I'm like, what? Passed where? He's like, he's gone. I'm like, where did he go? Like, what do you mean? I'm thinking, my dad traveled a lot. So I'm thinking, where did he go? But then I can hear something in his voice that was different. And he's like, he's gone. And I remember, but the next thing I remember, I know I'm sitting on the wall. And I'm like, but what are you talking about? He just called me last night. So I know I've said this a million times. My dad called me that evening, but I was babysitting my nephew. My nephew at the time was one. Yeah. He was a year old. And he was a brat like he is still to this day. And he would cry. So it's like to get him to stay was hard. So I didn't answer the phone. I said, tomorrow's Father's Day. I know he's going to come because he would spend the first half of the day in Puerto Rico. And then he would fly in the evening. So I knew he was going to be here the next day. I'm like, I'll talk to him tomorrow.
He was in Puerto Rico.
So he called me that probably 9 p.m. So to this day, I don't know what he called me for, but I'm like, he just called me. Let me call him. And he's like, no, he's gone. And I'm like, no. So I remember hanging the phone. He's like, you need to come now. But I can hear in the background screaming and a lot of commotion. So that's how I found out that my dad had passed away. It was my little brother calling me. My boyfriend drove me to my mother's house. When I got there, there were people there. And by this time, my mom was already in a state of shock. So I don't know what happened to her. All I know is we ended up having to call the ambulance and the fire department. She went into this weird state of shock where she couldn't talk. She couldn't. It was like a corpse.
It was like there was nobody there.
She was breathing and she didn't know what was going on. And she just kept asking where he was and repeating the same thing over. I'm like, we lost her. Here goes number 2 all in one day. Like I read, this is how they say when people are together forever, they both die at the same time. Like she's gone. So I'm freaking out a little bit because I'm like, I think she's dying. We don't know this. And then the paramedics and the people come in and they tell us she's in a state of shock. We don't have to take her to the hospital.
You just need to let her be.
But I'm like, we need to go. He died in Puerto. Like, we have to get the fuck up out of here. We're booking flights. We can't put her on a flight like this. So we ended up having to wait till the next day. And I have my anxiety medications, and I ended up buying Zeke. Well, listen, if she didn't die from shock,
she was gonna die.
And she didn't die from the overdose that I gave her, she's gonna live to be 120. Because then I loaded her up with meds to get her onto the plane. So I don't think till this day she remembers anything from that time. So that's how I found out my dad died. He was perfectly fine. He was perfectly fine to our knowledge, and then he's gone. So your story is a little bit different, and I want you to tell the story of, you know, this last. How long did it take from diagnosis to
September, October, December, January, March, 8 months.
8 months. So I was just from 0 to 100 real quick, and you had 7 months. I want you to tell the story of how you found out, and I want to, you know, touch on a few different things that we're dealing with. What was the story with it?
So, he got diagnosed in September. So take it back a little bit to, he was here. So at this point I was already living here in Orlando. Mom and dad were still in Puerto Rico. At this point he is like, I have 2 years left. I'm going to retire in 2 years. You know, him and mom were like making all these plans. They were going to take a trip to Greece and Italy. And like, they were going to be living half of the time in Orlando and half of the time in Puerto Rico and like visit my godparents in Chicago. Like he's planning for retirement. It's around the corner. He's so excited. They were here in July, I think it was. And he could just sense like something was off. And he kept saying like, when I get home, I need to go to the gastro, check some stuff with my stomach. He knew that he just felt a little bit off. So as soon as he got back, I think it was like in August, he went to the gastro and to do an endoscopy. And what's the other one? The endoscopy, one's from the top, one's from the bottom. Anyway, he got both done. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
The doctor immediately was like, you need to go to the emergency room. So the doctor literally like walked my dad to the emergency room, which is something he's like, I've never done this. Because A, that's how close he was to my dad. And B, that was like, we need to figure this out immediately. So at first we didn't know what it was. I think dad knew all along and he just didn't want to vocalize it. But I think he knew it was cancer. But whether it be to keep us calm or whatever the reason was, he just kept saying, we need to do more tests. We need to do more tests. We need to do more tests. So he ended up in the hospital. They first,
you feel like he knew from the moment that his friend or the
I think once they started doing the tests, he kind of had a suspicion of what it might be because they found a few things, but then they kept being like, we need to do other tests. And I think at that point he knew that it was probably going to something.
And was this around the time that it was before October when you messaged me?
Correct.
Because
yes.
I quit on October.
Correct. So this was in August, early September. So he got, I finally found out it was pancreatic cancer. And then at the beginning, we went into quick mode. Like, okay, what do we do? How do we cure this? What do we need to do? We found like the best pancreatic cancer doctor in Puerto Rico, scheduled him the surgery. We know people, so we called whoever we had to call, like, open, we need to have the scan done. Like, we were moving people, let's do it quickly. And like this doctor had like a month wait list and we got him in like within a week. So he goes to the doctor checks the scans. He's like, yeah, we could probably do the Whipple. So the Whipple is really the only surgery that they can do for pancreatic cancer. And it doesn't fully cure you, but I guess they kind of eliminate, his was in the tail, if I'm not mistaken. They can eliminate that portion. So they're technically taking the cancer away, but you're not necessarily cured because you can't cure pancreatic cancer. Again, guys, I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on all of this. So at that point, we're going to do the Whipple. He went into surgery on Christina's 30th birthday.
I remember
which
that.
was September 27th. And we were all like we're doing this. Like, yes, it's like, it sucks. It's pancreatic cancer, but he's going to have this surgery and he'll probably last a few more years.
And this is something that I will say, to cut you off right there, for 2 seconds. Your hope was huge. Yep. Your family's hope. From the second that you texted me, and there was hope for the surgery. He's going for some testing, whatever. We don't know what it is. But I think you said to pray or just to tell me about it. But I feel like in the back of your mind, you messaged me because you knew.
Yeah.
So I knew from the second that you messaged me, I'm like, you knew something. And I was like, why the fuck is she texting me? Girl, I haven't even dealt with my shit. I don't even know how to deal with my stuff for you. But I knew that I had to, like, I'm like, maybe this is a purpose of mine. And I know it has been a purpose of mine all along. But then when you told me it was pancreatic cancer, I then thought back to my grandfather. My grandfather died within 45 days of being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So I didn't have, I'll be completely honest to you as a friend.
You didn't have the hope I had.
How the fuck did she have this much hope? And I think my negativeness, not negative, but like my doubt came from seeing my grandfather die within literally 45 days of diagnosis, and then everything I heard about pancreatic cancer.
Which is like the worst that you can have. So then at that point, now we're Googling. And
girl, you can't Google.
Piece of advice that I will give people: do not Google. Like, immediately from the moment they said it was pancreatic cancer, literally, I think I must have gotten a text within 5 seconds from my sister being like, did you read? Like, there's only like a 5% chance of survival. They die within 3 months. Yeah. I'm like, girl, don't even bring me this shit. Like, I can't. So anyway, he went into surgery and we're hopeful, you know, it's all this thing. And I'll never forget, I was at work and I get a call from my brother. And my brother is like...
These fucking brothers in their phone calls.
And my brother never calls me. And he's like, give me a second. I need to get mom on the line. And I'm like, what? So immediately I'm like, something happened. I was like, what happened? And he's like, I don't know. She just said to get you all on the line. I need to get her on the line. And I was like, when I tell you that my heart like literally stopped, I was like, he's dead. He's dead. He died. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
On the operating table, that happens all the time.
My mom gets on the line and she can't speak. She's just crying. And I was dead gone in the middle of work. I'm like, he's gone. And then my cousin who was with her takes the phone away from him. She's hysterical crying. And she goes, it's not good news. I'm like, dead, fully dead. He died. I'm like, and she can't speak either. I was like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me?
Y'all could have texted me.
Can somebody I was like, what is going? She's like, it's not good news. I was like, is he dead?
Right.
No, he's not. I was like, well, can you lead with that? Because here I'm thinking that he's dead.
Right. We can start with he's not dead, but hold on, let me cry.
Exactly.
Let me get it together.
So now he's not dead. Okay. It spread. And it spread like through his stomach and to his pelvic. So at that point, they can't do surgery. So it's just as they opened him, they closed him right up. And basically back home in Puerto Rico, the doctors were fantastic, where they basically told him, go home. You're not having any symptoms. Call me when you have symptoms and we'll start chemo. So basically it was like, go home to die. Once you're dying, come and we'll do a little chemo and that's it.
Chemo makes it even worse.
And we were like, well, absolutely not. So again, we went into overdrive and calling everybody that we knew. And my cousin in New York had like connections with, I don't know what hospital in New York. And in the end, one of my godfather's best friends works for the Mayo Clinic. So she knew of a clinical trial that they were doing at the Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville. So we just were like, you're moving to Orlando.
Did you guys ever go to Boston or think of Boston?
No. So he considered New York, but at the end, which I think it was the best thing and the reason why, you know, within everything that happened, we could have a little bit of peace about it, if you want to call it. We all needed to be together. We would not have survived this if we weren't together. Right. So the only answer was coming to Orlando. Right. And Jacksonville was only 2 hours away. He could, you know, drive, come back, do whatever he needed to do. So once he got here, he got into that clinical trial. Things were great at the beginning. I'm not going to say great, but, you know, he was responding to the clinical trial at the beginning. And one of the hardest things, and I think it was hard for him and hard for us, is to just literally see what cancer does to a person. Like, I even look at pictures now and I'm like, to see in like November, December, January, what he was looking like to like those last months where he got so skinny, you know, he could barely move at the end. And, you know, he didn't think he was going to make it to December. When he got here, like when he started the clinical trial, it was at that point, I think.
Over in December, wasn't it?
He came over in November. Like
yes.
Yes. You came over for Three Kings. So you came early January. So at the beginning, he didn't think he was going to make it to December. And he was very vocal. One thing that my dad was very comfortable with, and I will put his faith on this, is that he was comfortable with dying. He's like, I know where I'm going. I'm not afraid to die. And he made it his purpose towards the end to vocalize that. He would always be writing his Facebook updates like, hi guys, this is what's happening. This is where I'm at. You know, like I said, his faith was very important. He preached twice before he passed at our church back home, and he preached about death at the university. He did a whole, I would get messages from people that would follow me on social media that didn't know that was my dad. And then I started posting it and they would be like, oh my God, your dad is my professor. Oh my God, your dad just spoke at the university today and it was so amazing. And even that for me helped a lot because I was getting from other people being like, I know who he is, and like it's obviously not affecting me as it affects you, but it is. Like I have one girl that it was a student that to this day she still messages me, like she just graduated from her master's and she was like, I couldn't have done it without him. Like he was there with me that day, and that even gives me like that. You know, I knew my dad was amazing, but to see other people recognizing that also helps with the whole process. So come December, he was fine. My sister ended up getting married. She got engaged literally right before, when he was here in the summer, before he went back home and got diagnosed, was when my sister had just gotten engaged. Okay. So he was here for that. And the wedding was going to be last year, but it got fast forward to, you know, because she wanted my dad to be there, which is like what we all hope one day, you know, for our dads to be there. And that was one of the things that was the hardest for me, you know, talking about relationships and not looking to a guy for validation. I will never forget when I broke up with my last boyfriend and I was like devastated about it. My dad, this was like 3 years ago. Dad sat me down and he was like, this is the way I look at it. Why would I ever walk down the aisle, my daughter, or hand my daughter over to a guy that can't provide the same or more than what I can provide you? Right. And that's where it goes to growing up with a dad like that, you know? And it was that at that moment, it like, I had a click in my mind of like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like, why? Like, why would I leave the comfort of like my family, of my dad? Like, you take care of me. And like, I'm not talking about like financially or anything like that. Yes, and that it helps, but emotionally, like, why would I ever accept anything less than what he has been for me? Right. And, you know, as he was passing, I'm not going to say that I regret it, but I think one of the things that I threw myself into was trying to find somebody. And I was like putting myself in situations that I should not have put myself in. And I was forcing situations that were never going to become anything or weren't meant to be for me. Because I had this idea of, he won't walk me down the aisle, but maybe you'll meet the person. Right. And I just wanted him to meet the person because I felt if he meets the person, he'll know I'll be okay. Right. And that's all I wanted. And
I don't know what the fucking I ain't got nothing but fucking bounties, bitch. Fuck, hold on. In my mind, I'm like, well, the last months of you guys and them, I envision what I would have done.
Yeah.
And this is part of the reason why I wanted to touch on this. But if we take a quick stop in the journey of his last moments, I did want to talk to you about the wedding aspect of it. So you're throwing yourself now at this point to force relationships that probably aren't the best for you. And I forced a relationship for a long time because I said, you met him. You know my dad. You were there for Christmas. You were there for every New Year's, Thanksgiving, birthdays, whatever. You were there. So you have to be the one because you have to have known my dad. So you did a photo shoot. And girl, at first I'm like, what the fuck? And then I'm like, would I have done the same thing? Should I have done the same thing? Because although I was married, I never had a wedding. And this the biggest thing we have as girls.
Yes.
You want, who the fuck is going to walk you down the aisle if it's not your dad? So can you talk about that photo shoot that you did that whoa.
So it's funny because I talk about this on like the first episode of my podcast where I was like, immediately the moment he got diagnosed, the first thought that came to my mind was, he's not going to walk me down the aisle. And that might sound stupid, like in the grand scheme of things, like he's dying of cancer. But it is honestly the first thing that came to mind, especially because a friend of mine had just lost her dad the year before, and her dad got diagnosed with cancer, and he was gone in 3 months.
And you deal with weddings every
and
single
I do
day.
like I did wedding planning, and it was like in my face all the time. And it's as a girl, it was something that I had dreamt of, and I was like, he's not going to be there. So my sister was about to get married, and I just got this idea of like, you know what? Fuck it. He's not going to be there, but I can still build this memory with him. And I was in a position in that I was working at I work at a bridal salon now, but I was working at a bridal salon at that point. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get myself a wedding dress, and I am going to get myself all dolled up.
Did you buy it?
And we're going to do a photo shoot, and we're going to pretend that it is my wedding. And not necessarily, and I also don't because I don't want to sound like a crazy person that I pretend that I had this whole wedding. It was more of having that moment with my dad, of him being able to see me in a wedding dress for the first time. And not just for me, but also for him. Because I knew that for him, it was probably hard also that he wasn't going to be there. So I wanted to create that moment for the two of us, even though it wasn't necessarily my actual wedding day.
Right.
So I reached out to one of the designers that we carried at the store. That's where the whole blogger thing came in handy. I was like, listen, guys, like, this is what I'm wanting to do. And from the moment I reached out to that designer, they were like, we're on board, like, whatever you need. So they lent me 3 wedding dresses. I got to choose them. They sent them to me. I tried them on until I found the one that I liked the best. There was this photographer that I had worked with before, and I was like, hey, guys, this is my idea. They were like, tell me when and where, we'll be there. And we did it a few days after Christina's wedding. I think we did it like 2 or 3 days later. And I did my hair and makeup. We went to Rollins College. They have the chapel there. And we just did a whole photo shoot. I even, on the way out of the house, I was like, I don't have a bouquet. I need a bouquet. And my sister had like a little thing of, oh my God, what's that called? Mistletoe. She had a thing of mistletoe and it looked like a bouquet, and I just grabbed it. So the bouquet that I have in my pictures is mistletoe. So we literally staged it outside Rollins College, and we did a whole first look. Like if Dad, it was me just coming to him for the first time. And it was, what was really nice about it, that it was a day beyond the pictures, which I will have forever. It was just a day that we got to have for the both of us. And we had that memory. And it's funny because people ask me all the time, like, did you cry? Were you bawling? And I wasn't, because I feel like we were just happy to have that moment together and to be experiencing that. We did the whole first look. Then we did pictures around the area. And then it was his idea. We were right in front of the church because there's a church at Rollins College. And my dad's like, want to go inside? I was like, it's probably closed. And he's like, let me check. So he literally opens the door. He's like, it's open.
It's chapel. I think they keep it open.
Yeah, but it was pitch black. Like the lights weren't on. He's like, the lights aren't on. And the photographer was like, don't you worry. I can do it. And I was like, it's like pitch dark in here. And I feel like Jesus is not going to approve of this. So we're like walking into this empty church to take these pictures.
Trespassing the church.
But it was my dad who was like, come on, we're doing this. So we actually managed to do pictures of him actually walking me down the aisle. And at that point, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Like, it is pitch black. But all the photographer had to do was face his flash towards the ceiling. And if you see the pictures, it is fully lit. Like, it looked like the lights were on in that chapel.
Really?
And it was pitch dark. But we had the whole thing, and he walked me down the aisle. We took pictures in the altar. My mom was there, so we took a few pictures.
Your mom was there?
Mom was there, so we took a few pictures with mom too. And then my favorite part is that when towards the end, we were there for like a good 4 hours taking pictures. And then, so I have so many. And then at the end, it was his idea that he was like, wait, we need to take some pictures so that you can insert your groom.
So that was his idea.
So it was his idea. So there's some pictures.
God. Oh my God, that makes me want to cry because I know that you did that and you wrote about it. And I'm like, okay, well, you came up with that idea.
No, so there's some pictures where it's like me, dad, and mom, and my dad's just like putting his hands around an invisible person. And it's like, that's so you can like insert your groom here. And there's like some pictures of him like looking at him, like pointing his finger, like he's like telling him off or something. But again, like, I'll have those insert here pictures, you know, that I can have that memory. And at the end of the day, you know, yes, he won't be there that day, but that I got a little bit of that. Right. You know, I feel like nothing's going to replace him being there that day, but it helps a little that I was able to create that memory. And I have those pictures to look back on no matter what. And I'm pretty sure those will be pictures that I'll display on my wedding day, you know, because that will be like his way of being there kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to, because when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's
and you don't have the amount of people
genius.
The amount of girls that messaged me being like,
oh my God.
Wish I would have done that with my dad.
There's an article that I have read probably about, I would say 100 to be exaggerating, but in reality, I've probably read it like 10 to 15 times. And it's a girl talking about getting married without her dad. And this is where I cry.
Guys, we're like an ugly mess over here.
Ugly snot crying. And it's because I always said I wasn't going to get married. Mm-hmm. So I was sitting here with this guy for 6 years and I wasted so much time. So I get so upset at myself at how much time I wasted. But then I have to remind myself, I was going through life, you know. I was learning who I was. And if I didn't go through all of that, I wouldn't have met who I met now. And I didn't want to marry the guy I was with before. And I then said, I'm never going to get married because I cannot get married if my dad isn't walking me down the aisle. It's impossible to get married without him walking me down the aisle. It's impossible to have another child who will not have that granddad that Ayana had. Like, when I tell you, it was like the most obnoxious relationship with Ayana.
My dad with my nephew.
Obnoxious. And you're talking about a dad with a boy. Imagine if that was a girl. It's disgusting. So I have been trying to come to terms with the fact that when you really fall in love, and I can truly say that I am in love, I want to marry this guy. I don't know if I'm over here like, I want to get married. I don't have a ring on my finger, and the man he hasn't even proposed to me, but I'm like, you're who I want to be with for the rest of my life, and I would love to get married. I have to think about the fact that he won't be here. And how will I replace that? Who will walk me? Will anyone walk me? Will my family even be there because of the issues that I have with my family? So I think as women, we want that the aspect of it, and you were able to get that. So I always knew my dad would die one day. You know, it's like, we're all going to die. Either I'm going to die first, he's going to die, somebody's going to die at some point. But you were able to have that. And that's why one of the reasons where I'm like, is it better to have a prolonged death? Or is it better for it to be sudden, for it to just happen? Because I will tell you, I would watch your stories and I would talk to you and you would update me and I would read your updates. And I'm like, I don't know if I could have done that and go through, because it's such a roller coaster, and you can tell it was a roller coaster. And I think you guys were trying to fit in so much. It was like you went to parks and you went to the beach and you did so much in so little time. And I'm grateful that I was able to do all that with my dad while he was here. But it's say if someone gave me 6 months and told me he's gone in 6 months, what would you do in that time? And it creates great memories, but does it make the pain longer?
So for us, it was, I'm going to say yes and no, because I can say this. I cried myself every day to work and every day home from work. While I was home, I was not crying. I took my time alone to bawl my eyes out because I didn't want to be crying in front of him. I didn't want to be crying in front of my mom, my sister, because everybody was dealing with it. And I didn't want to bring like my shit into it either. I do think, we were able to create so many memories and do so many things that he wanted to do. Like, he was a huge Yankees fan. So he always wanted to take my nephew to his first Yankees game. Training camp is right here in Tampa. So we were able to go to a Yankees game. Like, he had that experience with my nephew. He wanted to get my nephew his first car. So he got him a little Jeep for Christmas. And he was like the happiest person. He did get to walk my sister down the aisle. In some way, he got to have that experience with me.
How do you feel about that?
So
how did you feel? Like, have you ever talked about it?
So it wasn't hard. I think in that moment, it was such a roller coaster. Like, we literally planned her wedding in like 45 days. It was like, oh, this is happening. We're doing this. Let's figure this shit out. Like, we did it. And I think the emotion of like, he's there, it's happening. Like, I think I got a little bit more emotional with the father-daughter dance portion of it. I think that hit me a little bit harder, but I think I knew I was taking my pictures a few days later, so I kind of concentrated on, I'm going to have that moment. Now, I just went to New York in January for my cousin's wedding, and I totally forgot about it. Not that I forgot that my dad had died, but I wasn't putting two and two together at that moment. Like, it didn't even occur to me. And the ceremony had already started. Like, we got there, and it's my dad's cousin's daughter. So we got there. My sister, the first thing she tells me is, look at the back of your place card that says like where we're sitting. And I was like, why? She said, just look at it. And I turned it around and I just saw his name. I was like, I'm not reading this. I can't do that right now. I'm going to start crying.
Your dad's name?
She's like, read it. So then it said, in lieu of favors, we've made a donation to the I don't know what Pancreatic Cancer Center in honor of our cousin, Ruthie Fonseca, who taught us how to love, live, and share every minute of your life. Something like that.
So he was a part of
somebody else's wedding. So we were already bald. At that point, I'm like, really? So I'm already crying. So then the father's speech happened. I cried a little bit at that, but it was funny and it was fine. They announced the father-daughter dance. Girl. Like, when I tell you, I think it was also because my cousin was next to me and her immediate reaction was to grab me. And I think her hugging me
made it worse.
And I'm now bawling. So then, and we're at table 1.
Oh,
like literally with the parents.
Right here,
like, we're right here, front and center. So I'm bawling. Then my sister starts bawling. Then my cousin starts bawling. My mom, like, it's 5 of us hugging each other
while they're dancing.
So literally full
people
on.
Don't know where to look. You or the dance.
I felt so bad, and then at one point, I kind of wanted my cousin to stop hugging me because I had calmed down a little bit. But she had me so tight that and I was like, I really don't want to make a huge scene out of this, but we already did. But I'm like full bawling. I literally took I'm like, you're done with your champagne? Oh, okay, great. Thank you. You done with your champagne too? Okay, great. Thank you. I think I chugged like 7 glasses of champagne. I was like, my dad died. I can do this. It's fine, guys. I'm fine. And I remember texting some of my friends being like, just experienced my first father-daughter dance. And they were like, oh, girl, that's a rough one. They're like, some of them, they're like, I actually will step out of father-daughter dances for that same reason.
So I did that. I went to a wedding March 2018 in DR. I think I just posted a picture, so it might have been 2018. And it's my first wedding. So I don't do a lot of weddings, actually. I don't know why. I've just
Me neither. I plan them, but I don't go to
I've never been really invited. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the fuck.
We need to get her better friends.
I don't know that many weddings. The last episode I talked about how one wedding, which is amazing. To this day, I wish I would have went to, but I didn't because I didn't invite my significant other. And I was like, I feel kind of weird. I don't want to go if I don't know anyone. But anywho, I go to this wedding and the father-daughter dance is about to start. And the music starts and I was with my ex and I looked at him. And this is one thing I will forever be grateful for him because he wasn't a bad person. I always say he wasn't a bad person. We just weren't right for each other. He looked at me and I looked at him and he knew and he grabbed my hand and said, let's go to the photo booth. And we left to the photo booth and I cried to the photo booth.
And then
And then it was fine. It's like we took props and took pictures, and then people were like, "What the fuck are y'all doing here? Like the photo booth is not ready yet." But I'm like, "No, it's ready now." You're opening this fucker now. Find me the big glasses and whatever the fuck wigs y'all got, because I need to take these pictures because I cannot be in there. Yeah. So I think a pro tip of
it's walk away. Dads, it's just walk away.
Walk away, because you don't want to take away
from their moment,
from that moment.
And that's what I kept thinking. I felt so bad because again, we're on table 1. It's like her sister and her mom crying, and the mom, they're both crying. Not only because they know what it's doing to me, but they're also crying because she's seeing her daughter with her. So it's like a mix of emotions on both ends.
Owe people's money for their makeup.
And like Christina, my sister, she was like, I was crying, and I was like, why am I crying? Like I had the moment with dad. So it was just like a mix of emotions for everybody. You know, Jessica's dad, I don't know if you know, he's has cancer. So she's going through all that with her dad now too.
Right, they just drove, right?
Yes. Okay. So all these, I think everybody was processing it like in a variety of ways, and it was just like a scene. So I would recommend not making the scene. And for example, the one that was hugging me, she's getting married now in June.
Jesus.
So I know for her, I'm just going to step out. I'll just be like, I'll just walk. And
I'll watch it on video.
It's no problem. I'll just step out. It's 2 seconds. I'd rather avoid the situation.
And it doesn't matter because you're coming up on a year, right?
Yeah, in May. It's so crazy how quick it goes.
I'm about to hit June, 4 years, and the same pain that you experienced when you talk, I still feel to this day. Yeah. So for you, I'll tell you, and for anyone listening that has experience or it's about to experience, the pain doesn't go away.
No.
The void doesn't go away. You kind of learn how to navigate without them. Especially, I think for me it's a little bit harder. You have you guys are very intact. He left shit the way it was supposed to be left. My daddy did it. He was like, "Peace out, Father's Day. Figure it out."
That's my gift to you.
My gift to you, a fucking arroz con culo, which is what I call it every time. So if you're Spanish, you'll get this because we call it like rice and beans. I'm calling it rice and ass when he left us. So fuck it, it's un arroz con culo where he left us. Behind money and property wise, and which is why I have stepped away. So I have never really talked about the money situation because money doesn't
fix it.
It doesn't fix anything.
It's not bringing him back.
It doesn't make me. It doesn't. I don't identify with how much money I have. But money has torn apart our family. Pride has torn apart my family, and I will not kiss anyone's ass for $1. I just can't. But I yearn my family the way I see your family, and it's really hard. We're done with that. We're done with that. Just know that when someone passes, they're not gone. I don't know how I'm going to have that day. Yeah, because I kind of wanted him to tell the story. Now he should call now, but he calls me this morning. Fuck, it was this morning. So yesterday I was on live and everyone's like, "Oh, he hasn't called and interrupted your live yet," and I'm like, "He's actually sleeping. He's been traveling." So I fall asleep and then he starts calling when I'm asleep and I don't hear his phone call. So this morning I have like 3 missed calls from him and a message from him, and I was, his little sweet self. So this morning he's like, "I was calling you and missing you last night. I needed to talk to you." And I said, "What's up?" And he's like, "I had a dream with your dad." Now I've told this, I think on the podcast before, he has felt things here. He has this spiritual and touchness.
One of my coworkers has it.
Yeah, it's this weird thing that he has. I'm not gonna call it weird. I don't have it. Nobody touching me while I'm asleep. But it's happened to him twice here in my house. Now keep in mind, my grandfather died in this house, in my bedroom specifically. So my grandfather's ashes are in my bedroom, and my father's ashes are also in my bedroom. So 3 different instances he has been touched in my house by something. And last night he had a dream, and he said, "I had a dream with your dad." And I was like, I'm gonna cry for real. Listen, sorry y'all. I hope y'all aren't listening to this at work. And I know.
I hope you have tissues with you because it's rough.
Hella rough. So I probably will lighten up by the shit talk. He tells me, he's like, I was with your dad and we were working on the boat. He's like, I was like, well, that sounds about right for you guys to work in the boat. He's like, went to go eat. I took him to this restaurant with his sisters a couple of weeks ago here at Casa La Empanada. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And my dad actually we would put ads for the pawn shop there. And he knew them, and he would go in the back. Like, he knew everybody who worked there. He was always there in the mornings to get coffee. So he's like, and your dad went in the back and started cooking stuff. Keep in mind, my dad was the guy who didn't matter what restaurant he was in. He knew the cooks, and he'd be in the back. He'd be the one to cook. And I said, that's my dad. You don't know him. And
My grandma met him one time, and ever since she's met him, she's like, I like him. And my grandma is racist as well. My grandma is a typical Puerto Rican lady who is not because he's African American black. In our culture, especially the old people, it's a colorism thing. Yeah. When you're dark, I was too dark when I was born. My grandma was like, "Esa negra, why did she have to come out so dark?" And I'm not. You're not even that dark. So bringing wax into the picture, the man is like black, big black, like dreads black. And she met him one time. And she said, "There's something about him." And then whenever I talk to her, she's like, "Cómo está el negro?" And by that time we call that's not a racist part of it. Yeah. we say that in Puerto Rico. Wax is a spirit of my dad. He has this connection with him that I didn't think, and I pray that you find that, because he has felt him. Everything my dad was to me, he is to me. And he has had this dream, and he had this dream last night where everything that he said to me, I'm like, that was him. And my mother was a part of that dream. And he said my mother and I were walking towards the boat, and we were like besties. And I don't know if it'll ever happen. I do yearn for my mother. I can't. Right now, we're not in this space. But he had the dream. And for Thanksgiving last year, he had a dream that my ex-mother-in-law and father-in-law would come to his house for Thanksgiving. Keep in mind, ex-mother-in-law, ex-husband's mother and father. And he had the dream. And he said, "Can you ask them if they'll come?" And I said, "What is wrong with you? Like, who are you?" And keep remember, my dad was super close to them. My dad flew her to Puerto Rico. Like, he was really close to them. And I don't think I've told him that part yet. But for Thanksgiving, we spent it at Wax's house with my ex-in-laws.
That's amazing.
And they're super close, and we still go to their house, and we eat at their house, and we hang out together. And I think he has this connection with my dad without knowing him. And this is why it's like, he can't go nowhere.
Sorry.
You will have to die with me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we don't have to put so much stress and like pain into it. Yeah. Because it will happen the way it has to happen.
And something that actually helped me a lot, a conversation that I had with my pastor, like, was kind of like in the middle of that, where I was like trying to find something or whatever. And he said two things to me. He said, one, would you rather spend a few years with the right person or a lifetime with the wrong one?
Oh, give me a few years.
And I was like, I was like, well, I would love a lifetime, but I know you're right. I would rather have a few years. But then the other one, which is the most important one, he was like, whoever you end up with will know your father because they know you. Wow. And you are a representation. You will represent, like, you will introduce them to your father. And it's funny because, to kind of finish it quickly, so things got bad, he started getting worse, where dad, come like March, he could barely walk, he could barely like do anything for himself. And that's when it became really, really hard for him, because I would hear him, and he didn't know, because he was like in his trance in the sofa, and I would be like on the computer, and I would hear him talking to God and being like, just take me, like this, I don't want to live like this, like just take me. And that was hard for me to hear, but at the same time, it made me be like, God, take him. Like, I'm fine. It'll suck and it will be awful, but I also don't want him living here like this. Like,
right.
He's like, that's not his best self. If he's going to be here, he always said he wanted quality of life over quantity of life. And that's why we made a priority to make every single second count. Like, even Easter, we did like this big Easter egg hunt, then come May, he ended up in the hospital. And the moment he ended up in the hospital, he had like a whole freak out at our house. We thought he was having a stroke or something. The ambulance got called. They took him to the hospital. We thought that when we got to the hospital, they were going to tell us he was dead. Right. And I also think there's a big difference between, like, if he would have, once that happened at our house and he went to the hospital, if he would have died on the way from the home to the hospital and we would have gotten there and they would have been like, he's dead, that would have been a nightmare. Like, we were not prepared at that point. Like,
even though we've now
had months, and he had already stopped chemo at that point, because it was really like just taking the life out of him. It was so like all of a sudden in our face that we would not have ready. That was a Sunday. He passed away that Wednesday. We had 3 days to quote unquote prepare. So from the moment he ended up in the hospital, he told us, he's like, guys, I'm not making it to Thursday. just because my godparents were supposed to come in on Thursday. And he's like, that's great. I don't think I'm making it to Thursday. So he was fully conscious. He knew I'm out. Like, I'm on my way out. Like, just let people. I was like, do you want me? So he started, you know, his last, one of my favorite things going into the whole, like,
Did you guys vlog all of this?
So we didn't. We didn't have video. I think, you know, it's so funny. Like, through the whole process, I would say, like, I need to do all of these videos and all these interviews with him. But I think we were so about in the moment that I have a ton of pictures.
Oh, you have videos
Yes,
too.
I have a ton of little videos. But, like, there at the end, one of my favorite things was, like I said earlier, he made it a fact of, like, updating everybody on Facebook and doing, like, his little weekly updates. So what we did was the day... That was on Monday. He like called me over to the bed and he's like, type this out, because he couldn't type. So he could barely understand what he was saying, but he actually dictated to me his last Facebook message.
Oh, wow.
So the way we announced that he passed away Wednesday night. We waited until Thursday morning because we didn't want to have to. Obviously, we called our close friends and family, but we didn't want to announce it until the next day. So I had taken this picture of him at the hospice house. Once he was at the hospital, all he kept saying was, "I want to go outside. I want to go outside," but he couldn't go outside.
Why?
So that's because they couldn't for the hospital. It would have been a liability for him to like get it. Yes, a whole thing.
I would have been like, fuck y'all.
So what we actually ended up doing was we took him to the hospice home, which was like right around the corner from the hospital, and his room had a balcony.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So what we were able to do was take his bed to the balcony, and he was able to be outside.
That's amazing.
And I have this picture of him like of me being behind him, of him like just looking outside, and it's like this really pretty horizon. So we posted that picture, and then it was his last message of like, if you're reading this, it means that cancer took one final blow and I'm knocked out. So he made it funny.
Right.
And it was this whole message about how thank you, blah, blah, blah. So we posted so he announced that he has, because we put it on his page.
Oh, wow.
So it was his page that we put the message, and then we all shared it to our pages.
Can you send me that so I can post it?
Yes, of course. And then what I will say was that those 3 days gave us as a family, nothing was left unsaid. We said everything we had to say. We said our goodbyes. My godparents were able to like bring up their flight, and they got there that day in the afternoon. I'll never forget the last day. We were able to take him into the balcony twice. We were playing 60s, like his favorite music, and he would shimmy his shoulders to the music.
Wow.
At one point, he called my mom and grabbed her boob. At one point, my sister was mouthing off about something. He slapped her in the face. I like laid on his chest, and he just like started scratching my back. And there's like a picture of that. So that last day, we knew it was going to happen, but we were able to, in the midst of the sadness, still enjoy those last minutes because he knew where he was going. So literally towards the end, we could see that he was getting short. His shortness of breath was like he was barely breathing. And we literally just rallied around the table, the bed. My godfather is a Lutheran minister, so he said like his final prayer. We're all singing his favorite hymn, and I kid you not, the moment we finished singing and my godfather like did like in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, stopped breathing. And I think it was a moment of like I broke down for like 2 seconds, and then it was fine. Like we were at peace. It was what it was. Like I feel like I didn't cry the first few months until the holidays, and that's one thing I'll say. All the firsts are the hard ones.
Yeah,
it's
gonna be the fifth. They're gonna be hard as hell.
The first, like my first birthday, he died in May, so like a month later was Father's Day. I literally woke as soon as I opened my eyes. My sister's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Like bawling the whole day. It hit me hard. December, I was in, you might call it a seasonal depression. I was, all that I did not cry when he died, I cried in the months of December. Like, and that's when I started therapy.
So I asked my therapist about this, because anytime I talk about my dad, unless I'm telling some retarded story about like my tits or something, I cry. I cannot talk about him without crying. And she said to me that she's like, so I asked her, this was my specific verbatim question. when will the shit stop?
It won't.
And she said it won't. And I said, okay, cool. Well, I can't talk about this anymore. I have to be careful.
There's this TED Talk. I'll send it to you. I forget what the girl's name is, but she has a podcast. It's called Terrible Thanks for Asking. She, I think, and I'm probably not saying this correctly, but her dad died. A month later, she had a miscarriage, and like 2 months later, her husband died.
Shit.
Like all within like 4 months. And her whole
and
thing,
we think we have it bad.
Yes, and the whole thing in that TED Talk that she did was what they ask you, like, when are you going to get over it? And she's like, well, when are you going to get over the birth of your child? You celebrate the birth of your child every year, right? I celebrate the death of my father every year. Like, it's never going away. You just learn how to live with it, which is a completely different dynamic. And it's, with time, it's just learning how to handle it. And one of the things that with my therapist, because again, the other thing I will wholeheartedly recommend is going to therapy, because I found myself in this thing that I was like waking up at 3 a.m, like hysterical crying, like I couldn't sleep and I could not stop crying. And the whole relationship thing came up, and she was like, one of the things that's going to be amazing for you is that you're going to introduce your dad to people. He might not be here, but you're going to be able to use those stories to introduce your dad to, whether it be a new friend, whether it be your future husband, whether it be your children, you have them. And going back to what my pastor said, which and that moment was like, oh, wow, you both said the same thing. They were like, everybody will know who he was because they know you. And because you have those stories to share and you have all those memories to kind of introduce who he was, and that I am, going back to being the daughter of a father, that was there my whole life. I am who I am today because he was who he was to me for the last 34 years of my life.
Good. Can we stop?
Can we stop now? Yes, please.
Okay, cool. Fuck, man.
Thankfully, nobody wore makeup today.
Nobody. Who is texting me? Oh, the psychologist. Okay, my guest for tomorrow. And I'm going to be like, yes, and actually you're about to give me free therapy tomorrow, lady. No, so this is basically, I wanted to give you guys 2 very, very different stories of death, which death can be a very dark, sad thing, but I think you can see in us who we are. And if they go to your Instagram, they might not know you personally, but now they can get to know you through your podcast, Unexpected Reality. But you can see how I get all the time, oh my God, you're so crazy, you're so alive, you're so fun, you're so this, you're so that. I'm that because of the way that I grew up and who I had in my life and who I admire, which is him. I'm also that because of who my mother is. Although whether I talk to her or not, whether the things about her that I don't, like, there's many things about my dad that I didn't like. But our parents definitely shape us. So you are who you are because of that. So even though they're gone, they live within us. So don't, and then tying it back to the beginning of the show, don't
deny your child. Don't deny your child of
Don't deny the child of whether it's a shitty parent or a good parent, because someone might tell me that my dad was shitty by he would come here and be like, yeah, I cheated on your mom. I have this hoe. I put $100 for this. He would tell me about what he had going on, but at the same time, I respected him for being honest with me. So I became the woman that I am from what some might say not a traditional father. You became who you are from a traditional, perfect speaking, not perfect. That's not what I mean. Yeah, but you know what I mean. By society, he was what society respected as a father. My father was not what society expects as a father, but it grew me to be who I am because he was there regardless. So taking that and going really quick, and now we're gonna go really fast down this road. This is why it's so good that we are our own fucking podcast, and when you're doing it at home, you can do it as long as you fucking want to. So we'll go into unsolicited advice, and unsolicited advice is a segment within the show where I give advice to people that ask for it, and some that didn't even ask for it, but I feel like they need my advice and my guest co-host advice, because if I bring you onto my show, you get to give good advice. So here we go. It says, I'm terrified of death. Whoa. But this is more of a personal thing. Yeah. So he says, I'm terrified of death. I have a horrible fear of death, and I have never been able to cope with it. Being an atheist, I don't believe anything happens to us after we die other than permanently losing consciousness. I have tried thinking about a bunch of different ways, but no matter how I try, I can't stop the fear of no longer being. I know you have your religious beliefs, Carla, but how have you come to terms with death if you have? What do you think happens after death? Thank you in advance for your advice. I can't wait to hear it. So I can give quick advice on this. Have I come to terms with death?
Yes, I am an accountant by trade. And like I told you before, there's 2 things that we are sure in this lifetime is we are going to die
and
we have to pay taxes. It's going to happen. Being an atheist, I can see how you can. I get from this, if you're terrified of it, it's because you have a belief of something.
Yep.
So I feel like you're an atheist in rebellion to something.
Yep.
Like when I left church, I wasn't an atheist, but I was scared of something. And I was scared of the fact that I was doing shit. And I was a bad person. Not a bad person, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I wasn't living right. So I think you have this fear of death because you have a fear that you might not make it somewhere. Or that it might not just be losing consciousness. So if I truly believed myself that there's no afterlife, that it's just losing consciousness, what is there to be scared of?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
What are you scared of?
What are you scared of?
It's just a body that's going to go away and you go nowhere. You don't reincarnate. You don't nothing. Do you think that maybe you're going to come back as a frog? You think you're going to come back as like whatever it is?
It's so funny that you just said that because actually we say that Dad is a frog.
About your frog. You're right. You guys do say that. So I came to term with death before my father passed away. I know that I'm going to die at some point in time, and I have no problem with dying. All I have a problem with is not living to my fullest potential before death.
And I'm on the same page as you, you know, especially like I have a friend back home in Puerto Rico, and with the whole earthquake thing, she wasn't leaving her house. And I was like, girlfriend, if it's your time, it's either going to happen because of what an earthquake is not change, like whether it is an earthquake, whether it is that you're going to cross the street and a car's going to hit you, it's going to be your time. Staying in your house is not going to change that
at all.
And I think, you know, I'm like you, had come to terms with death before Dad, but I think seeing the way that my dad so graciously, because that's the perfect word, graciously passed away, you know, he at the end he was like, I don't know what heaven looks like. I'll let you know when I get there. I'll try to let you know if I can. But like, I have the faith that I am going somewhere. Where that is, I don't know because I've never seen it. I'll try to send you a postcard. But I know that I'm going somewhere, and I am completely fine with the idea of me dying, and I'm not afraid of that. He was afraid, and his thing at the end was like, cancer doesn't kill you when you die. Cancer kills you when you stop living. And that was this whole idea of like, no, you need to keep doing the things you want. Try to keep going for more. Because it's that, you know, and I hate it because coming for, like he said, he's being an atheist, it is having that faith in something else. And I do fully believe that if you don't believe in anything being beyond death, then what are you afraid of? Because if there's nothing there, what are you afraid about?
Right. So the fear comes from somewhere. Yeah. So I think that's the only advice I can give you. It's either try to peel back what you're scared of. So you have this terrible fear. What are you scared of? Are you scared of leaving people behind hurt? Are you scared of not knowing where you're going? Are you scared of the fact that maybe you should have faith in something and you don't have it anymore?
And explore that.
So explore that, and I think that will get rid of the fear. I am not scared of dying. I think whenever I leave the house, there's a possibility of me dying. When I jump on a plane, we just saw Kobe.
Yeah.
We just saw Kobe. My only fear is that I did not use myself and my voice to my fullest potential. And I can tell you I can die tomorrow and I'll die happy because I'm loving like I've never loved before. I'm raising my child like the best way that I know how. And I'm pursuing my passion. And that's
all you can ask for.
That's all I can do. And I know I will have left something behind. And I feel like podcasting is like my, audio diary.
Yeah, it'll always be there.
So this will always be here for somebody to see. As long as somebody keeps paying my media host, they can stay on Apple.
Ayana, you know what you need to do.
So I'm gonna have to add into my will.
Ayana, you better be paying that media host.
Somebody has to pay my media host so my podcast can stay live. And into this, we'll go into, and I actually don't even want to go into it very deep, but we're going to go into my shit talk.
I'm excited.
Okay, this is not dying. Well, actually, someone died and someone rebirthed into this body. So I just have a quick shit talk to talk about the opinions on Dwayne Wade's and Gabrielle Union's parenting of their newly birthed daughter, 12-year-old daughter, Zaya. Listen, I have been very vocal about the fact that I want to be an ally. I am an ally of the LGBT community. And my thing, although I was using the wrong things, is
Do what you do, how you do, what you do. It's none of my concern. I have my opinions on certain things, but outside of that, you are a human being, and I treat every human, living, breathing, the same. I treat the CEO the same way I treat the janitor, so I'm going to treat the trans woman, trans man, the gay man, the lesbian man, whatever the fuck you want to call yourself, the same way. Now, the issue I have with this is now that we just saw Lil Boozy come out, and we're seeing, hopefully, I'm praying that no more celebrities come out and make videos like these. And I only say this because there's a child involved. And I understand that it's a huge deal. And I watched his Good Morning America video where he talked about it and how he was being supportive. At the end of the day, this child is in a home. We don't know the circumstances behind this kid, how long they've been talking about it, how much therapy they have done. But Dwayne Wade is a father. And the same way I speak about parenting at all times, there has to be love in your household. This man is loving his kid for whatever purpose, whatever is going on. Shit, I'm getting myself into trouble all the time. I don't agree with a gender change as a child.
Correct.
I will never say I'll agree with it, or I'm like, oh, it's just the parents. No, I think it's not right for 3 to 18-year-olds, because by 18 you're legally an adult, whatever it is. I still don't think you're fully developed at 18, but for you to make a drastic change. That I believe that right now, Zion, it's Zaya, it's a name thing, it's gender identity, it's who she's identifying as, and Dwayne Wade and Gabby Union are just saying, I'm going to love my kid for whatever it is. And not to say that this child is going through a phase, because I don't know. I'm not trans. I'm not lesbian. I'm not part of the community. But I remember back in the day being into Metallica and all the and goth.
And now you don't even want anything to do with that.
I don't want you. So I feel like for those people that might think like me, where I don't understand it fully, and I don't understand it because I'm not there. Have I educated myself with it? Absolutely. I had Nala on an episode here, and she explained to me how she was a trans woman, her experience through it. So I can see it, and I get it. I can see their experience, but I will never be able to understand what that feels like inside, because I'm not it. So all I'm trying to say is, let Dwayne Wade parent his child the way he wants to parent her. If he wants to parent that way, that's none of your fucking business. Boozy talked about getting pussy for his 12-year-old kid at one point in time. That's a parenting choice that you made. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people are like, oh no, I want my son to get all the pussy, I want my daughter to. That is how you parent your child. Let him parent this one the way he wants to. We can have our opinions, of course, but remember, there's a 12-year-old child at stake here, and her feelings.
The only thing that I kind of have like a debate with is that I feel like they have both Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. They haven't talked about it at length as they have now. They have kind of brought it up in the past, because Gabrielle Union has, posted pictures of them at Pride and all that kind of stuff. The only thing, and it goes back to the whole that she is, how old? She's 12. Is that how old she is?
12. Yes.
She's 12 years old. She's a very young girl. That it's become like a press tour about this now. Like, I feel like he was on Ellen, they've done a few things they've mentioned, and the way I look at it is also looking out for the child, and that's where I'm not a parent, so don't come at me. But I have a debate, because as a parent, I would want to fully support my kid, and I feel like they're positioning her to be a leader in that, and to show kids her age that you can, like, if this is how you feel, it's okay. And I'm totally for it. I'm one, like, do you, boo, like, what? I'm not one to judge your decision, like, whatever you feel. Amazing. And yes, fully supported. But I kind of go in the both sides of, like, yes, I love that they're being so open about it and putting it out there into the public and supporting her. But at the other side, I'm like, are we putting her, like, in this space to be criticized? I don't know. Like, I'm in the middle of.
So from what I've read, I think that they've been dealing with this in private.
Yes, they have for years, and they've been a little bit putting it out there, little by little, and now he finally the
little by little has been very recent. Also.
Yes. I was within the last year.
Within the last year. So I think there's been years of talk about this, when he says, like, since 3 years old or whatever.
Oh, and that she says that she's, like, DM'd everybody and their mother trying to get information about.
Correct. So I think that this is something that they dealt with for years, and when they were ready, they were ready for the
everything that comes
tour,
with it.
And I think
that
the
makes
press
sense.
tour is because Dwayne Wade is who he is.
Yeah.
So if I come out right now and say Ayana wants to be a boy, nobody's really gonna care. You know, Good Morning America will not be calling me at this point in
Hey,
time.
you never know.
You know, let me give myself a little more credit. Good Morning America. Call me. Actually, call me. I got some shit to say. No, but you know what I'm saying? Dwayne Wade is
that
Dwayne
makes sense.
Wade. The same way that when Kobe died, people were criticizing.
Yeah.
I talked about, why aren't y'all talking about the rest of the family?
Yeah.
Because I don't know who that white man is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Billy was not the greatest basketball player out there of our lifetime. So I think that they dealt with it and knew that it was going to be so big. And I'm sure
that they prepared as a family. That makes sense.
not even as a family. As a business.
As a business, yeah.
As
yes,
a
100%. Yes.
Like
everything's been. I'm pretty sure that her post, his post, everything was like planned out.
I'm sure some are not, but it's like we have to get ahead of this because it's going to be talked about. So since it's going to be talked about, you guys have to.
And before it comes out through somebody else, let's just jump ahead and get it out ourselves.
So for us, it might seem like a press tour. For them, it's like
it's been in the books.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
We were ready.
See that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think. And that's all opinion. I don't know them. I wish I knew them, but I don't know them. I want to be friends with Gabby.
Zaya, come in. She'll go and interview you for the podcast.
I so would, just because, yeah, like with my partner, he's very traditional, very, very traditional, and very, very Christian. So this to them, and it's or to him, it's very like no, and I'm like, yes. You have to love regardless. You don't have to agree, but you have to accept. So. It is what it is. Actually, there was a story, and I'm going to read it later on because I think you said some things about. Actually, I'll put it for Patreon. Never mind. Patrons will get this. Just kidding. Now, before we end this, Ruthie, let us know again where we can reach you, and because you got a podcast now. I got
Instagram. A podcast now, guys. So you can find the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you find your podcast. It's Unexpected Reality. So on Instagram and Facebook is at Unexpected Reality Podcast. And then my personal Instagram is at Ruthie Fonseca.
Yes. And they will find you. I will tag all of this so you guys can definitely go listen to her podcast, which is launching tomorrow. But when you guys hear it, it would have been already launched. And then don't forget, if you want to start a podcast, if you have a story to tell, like us, you said you have a story. There was another podcast of a woman that lost a baby, lost her father. I know one that she went through a miscarriage, and that she has a community of people with miscarriages. If you are an expert in health and you want to talk about health, there's a niche for everything. And podcasting is not just ads and thousands of downloads to make money. You can make money by creating your own content, putting it out there, and getting your own audience.
And just to launch, plug her also, I'm an idea to launch student. Yes. So it works, guys.
It works. Like it's I think my daughter's home. Yep, she's definitely home just in time. But if you want to start your own, I can definitely help you. This is coming out Wednesday, so perfect. Tonight, if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out, tonight and tomorrow, the 26th and 27th, I will be having a free webinar when this dog shuts the fuck up. I'll tell you guys in a minute. I will redo this, okay? See you guys next week.
Bye.
I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. It's literally one of my favorite ones to record. And I want to leave you with an excerpt of a new episode that I posted on my Patreon community. If you're not part of the Patreon community, we do so much there. We have a book club, Mixed Minds Book Club. We have our virtual pajama parties once a month. And I also post content, journal entries of my own. I post extra episodes. I just made a commitment with my significant other that we will be recording once a month an episode and posting it on Patreon. So I had a rant about a friend that I recently lost, and not to death, even though you would think it's death because they're just gone out of nowhere and I don't know where they went or why they did me that way. But I had a whole entire rant about how I was feeling, and that's a new episode that I just recently posted on Patreon. So if you want to be part of the community, go to www.patreon.com/shit-I'm30. I will also tag it on the description of this episode, and I'll leave you with a few minutes of what that episode sounds like. And if you want to join, go ahead and do so. And I cannot wait to see you there so you can introduce yourself and become part of my besties group, because the girls that are in there, and there's some fellas, they're my besties, and you will get to see why once you're in. So listen to this and enjoy. He needed to understand that this had nothing to do with him. This had nothing to do with the man. This is more of a woman thing. So I released the episode and I told Wax, listen, babe, we can talk about it. We can deal with it later on, but I'm doing this for me. My relationship is not going to stop anything that I have creatively unless I'm disrespecting you. And truly in my heart, I didn't feel like I was disrespecting him. So I released the episode. Now here's what happens. I didn't think about calling Indio the day that I was releasing the episode. I told Vakai, but I didn't call him. And you guys, keep in mind, I used to call him all the time. But if I take it back really quick, I had a conversation one weekend here with Wax. And I tried to pull the same shit that I pulled with my ex and tell him, hey, this is my best friend. He's here to stay. And Wax was like, cool, that's your best friend. I don't want to come between it, but I don't want any parts of it. And I was like, what? And I'll tell you, I thought that was the end of us. And I didn't understand why he was like so adamant about it. And I'm like, but why? Then I had to take a step back and say, what is it about my friendship with India that kept me there, you know? And what kept me there and why I was so adamant with my ex is because my ex was not my best friend. My ex did not have, his intentions were not to make me better. And my friendship with Wax, like I said, is very similar to the friendship I had with Indio. And now that I think about it, and when I sat back for a few before, just going full on and telling him to fuck himself and suck a dick and leave me the fuck alone, I had to think about what was worth more to me. Was it that friendship with my ex or the friendship and love and relationship that I had with Wax?